97% of assistants quit toxic bosses. I tried. He locked me in his penthouse office. The biometric scanner blinked red. Click. I turned slowly. Min Seok stood silhouetted against the Seoul skyline, his finger still on the override panel. Open the door. No. One word. Quiet. Final. Devastating. And that's when I realized the obsessive Korean billionaire CEO I'd worked beside for 3 years wasn't going to let me leave. Ever. What I discovered in the next 40 minutes would shatter everything I thought I knew about protection, obsession, and the terrifying line between the two. Subscribe right now, because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about power and control. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and I'll reply to every single one. Let me rewind 47 minutes. Because understanding why I was trapped starts with understanding the one thing I thought I was doing right. I was finally escaping. Asterisk. My resignation letter sat in my bag, 3 professional paragraphs I'd rewritten 17 times, 2 weeks notice, clean break, new job in Singapore with Apex Strategic Consulting. Everything I'd dreamed of for months. Muscle memory guided my hands as I organized 3 years of work. Quarterly projections bound. Merger documents filed. Min Seok's calendar updated through next quarter. Even though I wouldn't be the one managing it. The clock hit 7 p.m. I picked up my bag, felt the weight of that resignation letter against my ribs like a second heartbeat, and walked toward freedom. My hand reached for the door handle. Red light. Click. I froze. This didn't make sense. My biometrics opened every door in this building. Min Seok had personally coded my access 3 years ago when he made me executive strategist. I need you to understand something about Min Seok Kong. He doesn't joke. He doesn't play games. He's the most ruthlessly logical man I've ever met. Which meant this wasn't a malfunction. Mr. Kang, the door isn't opening. Silence. Not the comfortable kind, not the thoughtful kind I'd learned to navigate over 3 years. This silence had weight. I turned. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, hands clasped behind his back, white shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Staring at the sunset like a general studying a battlefield. He hadn't moved when I'd spoken. Mr. Kang, can you override the lock? Long pause. Then quietly. No. That single word landed like a stone in still water. Excuse me? No. Clearer now. Colder. Final. My grip tightened on my bag. I don't understand. Are you saying you won't unlock the door or you can't? I won't. 2 words that changed everything. Mr. Kang, I have plans tonight. I need to leave. He still didn't turn. You're not leaving. The air shifted. Oxygen became thinner, harder to pull into my lungs. This isn't funny. Unlock the door. Now. No. That's when my professional composure cracked. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Full bars 30 seconds ago when I texted Michael I was running late. Now? Nothing. I tried the desk phone. Dead air. No dial tone. The intercom. Nothing. The emergency line. Silent. And that's when I heard his voice drift across the office, maddeningly calm. Looking for something? He'd finally turned from the window, and the intensity in his eyes made my skin prickle with warning. What did you do? I engaged the security protocol. He said it like discussing quarterly earnings. The office is now a Faraday cage. No signals in, no signals out. The doors are magnetically sealed. The elevators are locked. The emergency exits require a 6-digit override code that only I have. My pulse thundered. Why? He took a step toward me, then another. Each movement deliberate, controlled. Because you were going to leave. His dark eyes held mine. And I'm not ready to let you go. Here's what I need you to understand. Min Seok Kong controls a financial empire worth $3.7 billion. He owns this building. He owns the security systems. He owns every lock, every camera, every communication line. And right now, he owned me. I backed up instinctively, my hip hitting the desk. This is insane. You can't just... I can. His voice was surgical. I own this building. I control every system. And right now, you're exactly where I need you to be. My mind raced through exits, options, escape routes. Every scenario ended the same way. Trapped 40 floors above Seoul with a man who just crossed every line I thought existed between us. Min-seok. I dropped the formality, hoping his first name might snap him back to reality. This isn't you. You don't do things like this. His jaw clenched. Something raw flickered behind his controlled expression. Something desperate. You don't know what I do. He moved closer. You think you know me because you manage my calendar and translate my orders and keep my empire running. But you don't know anything about what I'm capable of when it comes to you. My breath hitched. What are you talking about? Michael. He said the name like a curse. Ice flooded my veins. How do you... He teaches chemistry at Seoul International Academy, 34 years old, silver Hyundai, lives in Itaewon, 3rd floor, 1-bedroom apartment. Coffee black, 2 sugars, has a dog named Max. Min-seok rattled off the details like reading from a file. He texted you this morning asking about the Italian restaurant in Gangnam. You said yes. Horror crept up my spine. You've been watching me. I've been protecting you. That's not protection. My voice cracked. That's surveillance. I couldn't finish. Min-seok's jaw tightened. You think you're safe out there? You think you can just walk away from me, from this company, from everything I've built around you, and nothing will happen? I'm not yours to protect. I'm your employee. When I leave tonight, that's over. You're not leaving tonight. And the certainty in his voice made one thing crystal clear. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a declaration. There's an emergency manual override, I said, forcing steel into my voice. Every building has one. I'll find it. You won't. I will. I moved toward the server room, my mind cataloging the layout. If I could access the mainframe, bypass his security protocol... My fingers flew over the keypad. Access denied. Again. Access denied. Let me tell you something about Min-seok Kang's voice. In 3 years, I'd learned to read every micro-expression, every subtle shift in tone. Right now, his voice was closer than it should be. He doesn't deserve you, you know. The words came from right behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him at my back. Michael, he's boring, safe, predictable. He'll take you to dinner and ask you about your day and never push you to be more than what you already are. Maybe I want boring. I spun to face him. He was right there. So close, I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Maybe I want someone who doesn't turn my life into a psychological chess match. Maybe I want normal. You'd be miserable. You don't get to decide that. I've watched you for 3 years. His dark eyes burned into mine. I know exactly what makes you come alive. It's not Michael and his safe little life. It's this. The challenge. The intensity. The way we push each other to be sharper, smarter, better than we were yesterday. Anger and fear, and something I refused to name, tangled in my chest. You're delusional. Am I? He tilted his head, studying me like a puzzle. Then why are your hands shaking? Why is your pulse racing? Why are you looking at me like you don't know whether to run or stay? I hated that he could read me so easily. Hated that 3 years had made me transparent to him. Unlock the door, I whispered. Please. No. You want to know why I learned everything about Michael? His voice dropped lower. Because the moment I saw his name in your messages, I needed to know who he was. What he could give you that I couldn't. Whether he was a threat? A threat to what? To this. He gestured between us. To us. There is no us. The words exploded out. You're my boss. That's all you've ever been. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe fury, then vanished behind that cold mask he wore when destroying competitors. You're right, he said softly. I'm your boss. Which means I have access to every security camera in this building. My blood turned to ice. Including the one in the break room where you stood at the window last Tuesday at 2:47 a.m. because you couldn't sleep. You were supposed to be working on the Singapore merger. Instead, you were staring at the city and crying. How did he? I have access to your computer logs. His voice was relentless now. I know you've been researching apartments in Busan. 2-bedroom units with ocean balconies, 800 kilometers from Seoul. From me. Stop. I have access to your medical records. No. No, he couldn't. I know you haven't been sleeping. I know you requested anxiety medication 3 weeks ago. I know that working for me is destroying you. Tears burned behind my eyes. Then let me go. I can't. Why? The question hung between us, raw and desperate, demanding an answer he'd been avoiding. Min-seok stared at me. His jaw worked like he was physically forcing words out. Then he moved. Fast. Too fast to react. His hand gripped my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop me, and dragged me across the office toward the windows. What are you? He spun me to face the glass and pointed down at the street 40 floors. Below. Do you see that black van? The one parked across from the main entrance? My eyes scanned until I found it. Unmarked. Tinted windows. Engine running. They've been there for 3 hours. His voice was rough against my ear. Waiting for you to walk out that door. My blood turned to ice. Who? Jung-ho Park's people. He said the name like poison. The same man trying to acquire my company for 2 years. The same man who sent his nephew to hack our servers. The same man who put a price on anyone close to me. I tried to pull away. His grip tightened. You think I'm paranoid? You think this is about control? I've had a security team tracking every threat against you for 18 months. I've diverted 3 attempted kidnappings. I've paid off 2 hitmen. And tonight, his voice cracked. Tonight, they were going to take you the moment you stepped outside. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process. So no, Gladys. He turned me to face him, and I saw raw desperation in his eyes. I'm not unlocking that door, because the moment I do, you die. And I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let that happen. You're lying. My voice came out hollow. You're making this up to keep me here. Min-seok's expression didn't change. He simply walked to his desk and pulled open the bottom drawer. He withdrew a manila folder, thick, worn like it had been opened 100 times, and threw it onto the glass surface. It slid across and stopped inches from where I stood frozen. Open it. I didn't want to, but my hands moved anyway. Trembling fingers lifted the cover. The first page was a photograph. Professional quality. Time-stamped 3 weeks ago. 2 men shaking hands outside a Gangnam office building. One was a stranger. Western. Mid-50s. Expensive suit. The other was Min-seok. My stomach dropped. You need to understand. Apex Strategic Consulting was my escape plan. The Singapore job offer. 40% salary increase, relocation package, everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought I'd earned on my own merit. Next page, a contract. Apex Strategic Consulting, LLC, wholly owned subsidiary of KM Holdings International, Min-seok's company. The next page destroyed me. Subject, the Gladys Thompson Initiative. David, proceed with recruitment as discussed. Offer her everything she thinks she wants. I need to know if she'll take it. MK asterisk. Response. Asterisk Min-seok. She's interested. Mentioned feeling professionally stagnant in current role. Should I push for decision timeline? Doctor. His reply. Yes. I want her answer before month's end. My hands shook so badly the pages rattled. More emails. Surveillance photos, copies of my confidential application materials. He'd seen everything, known everything, orchestrated everything. You, my voice cracked. You created this job offer? Yes. That single word hit like a physical blow. The interviews, the hiring committee, all real people, Min Seok said calmly. I didn't fake the company, Gladys. Apex is legitimate. The position was real. The offer was real. I just made sure it existed at exactly the right time and was presented in exactly the right way. Why? Because I needed to know. Know what? If you'd leave me. His dark eyes locked onto mine. If given the perfect opportunity, everything you claim to want, would you actually walk away? Horror and fury exploded in my chest. This was a test? Yes. You sick? I couldn't find words. 3 years of professionalism shattered like glass. You manipulated me. You made me believe I had a choice, that I had control, and it was all just another corporate chess move. It wasn't. Don't! I threw the folder at him. Pages scattered like snow. Don't you dare justify this. You violated every boundary, every professional standard, every basic human decency just to prove some twisted point. Min Seok didn't flinch as papers hit him. Didn't move. Just stood there with that infuriatingly calm expression. So I screamed, 3 years! My voice cracked, raw. 3 years I've given you. 80-hour weeks, canceled plans, missed holidays. I restructured my entire life around your impossible standards. And for what? So you could treat me like a lab rat? Gladys. I defended you to the board when they said you were too ruthless. I stood by you when everyone walked away. I believed underneath all the calculation, you were someone worth believing in. Tears streamed down my face. How could you do this to me? For the first time, Min Seok's composure cracked. His hands curled into fists. Something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. Something that looked like pain. Because I'm terrified. The words came out rough, dragged from somewhere deep. Because every single day you walk into this office, I have to remind myself not to touch you, not to tell you what you mean to me, not to lock the doors and keep you here where I know you're safe. I stepped back, shoulders hitting glass. That's not love. That's possession. I know. His voice dropped to a whisper. I know what I am. I know this isn't normal or healthy or anything close to what you deserve, but I also know. He moved toward me, slow and predatory. That the moment you step outside this building, you're in danger. Real danger. The kind that doesn't care about your rights or your choices or how unfair this is. You're using fear to control me. I'm using truth to protect you. He was close now. Do you think I want this? Do you think I enjoy knowing every person I care about becomes a target? That loving someone is the most dangerous thing I can do? Then let me go. If you actually cared, you'd let me go. I can't. His hand gripped the window frame beside my head, caging me in. Those men down there aren't going away. Jung-ho knows exactly how to hurt me. He's done his research. What are you talking about? Min Seok's expression twisted into something bitter and broken. He knows you're the only person whose opinion I value, the only person who can make me second-guess a decision, the only person I've let close enough to actually matter. I'm your assistant. You stopped being just my assistant about 2 years and 7 months ago. His voice was raw now, all pretense stripped away. You became the person I trust with every decision. The person whose judgment I rely on more than my own. The person He stopped. His jaw worked. Say it. I don't know why I pushed. Maybe because if he said it out loud, this would all make some terrible sense. The person I love. Quiet. Devastating. The person I would burn this entire city down for. The confession hung between us like a live wire. I couldn't breathe. 3 years of professional distance, careful, boundaries, and he'd just destroyed all of it with 3 words. You don't get to do this, I said, voice breaking. You don't get to trap me here and tell me it's love. I know. His hand moved to my face, thumb brushing away a tear. But I'm doing it anyway. Because losing you to another job, to another life, to someone like Michael who doesn't deserve you, that I could survive. But losing you to Young Ho, watching you die because of me? His voice cracked. I wouldn't come back from that. Before I could respond, he grabbed my wrist, gentler this time, and pulled me back to the window. Look. Really look. My eyes found the black van again. This time, I noticed details. The positioning for quick exit. Tinted windows making it impossible to see inside. It hadn't moved in 40 minutes. Security footage from this afternoon. He showed me his phone. Timestamp 4:47 p.m. I watched myself walk through the lobby. In the background, barely visible, a man in a dark jacket tracked my movement. Another man near the elevator did the same. He swiped to another video. Different angle. Same timestamp. The black van pulling up to the curb just as I entered the building. They've been waiting for you. Probably planned to grab you on your way to meet Michael. Make it look like a random kidnapping. By the time anyone realized, you'd be leverage. Leverage for what? To make me destroy everything I've built. He turned me to face him, hands gripping my shoulders. Jung-ho wants my company, my connections, my reputation in ruins. And the fastest way is to make me choose between my empire and the one person I actually care about. I searched his face for a lie. All I found was fear. Raw, genuine, terrifying fear. Here's what you need to understand about Min Seok Kong. He doesn't do fear. In 3 years, I'd watched him stare down boardrooms, navigate hostile takeovers, dismantle competitors without flinching. But right now, he was terrified. He released me abruptly and stalked to the window, pressing his forehead against cold glass like physically restraining himself. You want to know why I'm doing this? His voice was muffled but raw. Fine, I'll tell you everything. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small black box. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. Min Seok turned, and the look on his face was almost apologetic as he opened the box. Inside was a ring. Not a diamond. Not something romantic. A thick platinum band with a smooth black stone. Onyx, maybe. Set flush with the metal. Simple. Severe. Armor. Not jewelry. It's not what you think, he said quietly. I'm not proposing marriage. Then what? It's a pact. He held the box out. You wear this, and everyone in Seoul's underworld knows you're under my protection. Untouchable. Mine. That word sent shivers down my spine. You want me to brand myself as your property. I want you to survive. He moved closer. Young-ho isn't the only enemy I've made. There are others. People who would love to exploit any weakness. And you. His voice softened. You're the biggest weakness I've ever had. So your solution is to make me a permanent target by advertising I matter to you? My solution is to make you so visible, so obviously connected to me, that touching you becomes a declaration of war. His dark eyes burned. They can speculate all they want, but if you wear this ring, there's no ambiguity. You're mine, and anyone who harms you answers to me. I stared at the ring. Insane. All of it. But beneath the insanity, there was terrible logic. And if I say no? Min Seok's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked like grief. Then I unlocked the door. I let you walk out. And I spend the rest of my life wondering if today was the day Young-ho's people finally got to you. You'd actually let me go? I'd have to? His jaw, clenched. Because keeping you here against your will makes me no better than the men I'm trying to protect you from. He stepped back. Then he did something I never expected. He pulled out his phone and entered a code. Across the office, the biometric lock blinked from red to green. Click. The sound of freedom. There. Min Seok's voice was hollow. You're free to go. I stared at the green light, then back at him. What are you doing? Giving you a choice, the real one. Not the manufactured test with Apex, not the lockdown. Just you, deciding what you want your life to look like. You just told me there are men waiting to kill me. There are. He didn't sugarcoat it. But maybe you're willing to take that risk for your freedom? Maybe you'd rather face Young-ho's people than stay in a cage with me. And if that's true, his voice cracked. Then I have no right to stop you. I looked at the door. The green light. The promise of escape. Then I looked at Min Seok. Really looked at him. 3 years beside this man. 3 years watching him shoulder impossible decisions, navigate brutal negotiations, carry the weight of an empire without showing weakness. But right now, with his composure finally shattered, he looked fragile, terrified, human. If I walk out that door, what happens to you? I survive? He said it with certainty born from experience. I always survive. That's not what I asked. Long silence. If you walk out that door, I lose the only person who makes me want to be better than I am. He met my eyes. I lose my conscience, my compass, the only voice I trust more than my own instincts. He paused. I lose everything that matters. The confession hung between us, raw and devastating. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I looked at the green light, at the door that promised freedom, at the life I'd thought I wanted, safe, normal, far from this beautiful, terrifying man and his dangerous world. Then I looked down at my bag. The resignation letter still tucked inside. All those carefully chosen words about career goals and professional growth. Lies. All of it. I'd been running. Not towards something better. Just away from feelings I didn't know how to process. I took a breath. Then another. Then I let my bag slide off my shoulder. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Min Seok went very still. Gladys. I didn't let him finish. I crossed to the window and reached for the control panel. My fingers found the switch for the automatic blinds. The mechanism whirred. Blinds descended, cutting off the view of the city, of the black van, of the men waiting to destroy us. When the last sliver of sunset disappeared, I turned to face him. I'm not wearing that ring. Min Seok's expression shuddered, pain flashing across his features. Not yet, I continued. Not until you earn it. His head snapped, up, hope and confusion in his eyes. I moved toward him slowly, deliberately, closing the distance. If I stay, things change. I'm not your assistant anymore. I'm not someone you protect and control and make decisions for. We're partners, equals. Or this doesn't work. Partners. He tested the word. You want to keep me safe? Fine. But I get full access to all information, all threats, all strategies. You don't hide things to protect me anymore. Agreed. And you dismantle Apex. Tell David Richardson the experiment is over. Done. And you get therapy. Real therapy. Because this obsessive controlling thing, it's not sustainable. If we're going to survive whatever comes next, you need to deal with it. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. Min Seok didn't do vulnerability, didn't admit weakness. But then he nodded slowly. I'll make an appointment tomorrow. I searched his face for manipulation. All I found was exhaustion and desperate sincerity. Okay. Carefully neutral, but I heard the hope beneath. I'm staying. The words felt terrifying and absolutely right. Not because you locked the door, not because I'm afraid of Young-ho, but because I forced myself to say it out loud. You're right. I don't want boring. I want this. Whatever insane, complicated, probably ill-advised thing this is. Min Seok closed his eyes. For a moment, I thought I saw his hands tremble. But, I added firmly, the moment you lie to me again, the moment you manipulate me or set up another test, I'm gone. And next time, I won't be stupid enough to tell you I'm leaving first. Understood. He opened his eyes, and the intensity made my breath catch. No more tests. No more games. Just truth. Even when it's ugly? Especially then. I nodded slowly. Then, before I could second guess, I reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around mine immediately, desperate and careful all at once. So what happens now? Min Seok pulled me closer, his free hand cupping my face with gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. Now, he said quietly, we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to see if this thing between us is real or just two broken people clinging to each other in the dark. That's not very romantic. I've never been romantic. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. But I'm yours. Completely. Terrifyingly. And if you'll have me, I'll spend every day proving I can be the partner you deserve. I looked up at him. This dangerous, brilliant, utterly unhinged man who'd just torn my world apart and somehow made me want to stay in the wreckage. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. He almost smiled. Is that a problem? I rose up on my toes and pressed my lips to his. Just once, brief and gentle and full of promise. Ask me again in 3 months. And for the first time in 3 years, Min Seok laughed, a real, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. Asterisk. Outside, the city glittered in darkness. The black van waited. Young-Ho's people watched and planned. But inside the locked office, with the blinds drawn and the world held at bay, 2 people who'd been circling each other for 3 years finally stopped running. 3 months later, Young-Ho Park made his move. What he didn't know was that Min Seok had been planning for it. What he definitely didn't know was that I'd been planning right alongside him. That story? That's coming next week. Subscribe now because Part 2 reveals the war that nearly destroyed us both, and the secret weapon Min Seok never saw coming. Me. Drop a comment telling me, would you have stayed or walked out that door? I'm reading every single one.